Welcome to Forward 2025, the Guidance flagship election coverage of the 2025 national midterm elections, where we sit down with senatorial candidates to discuss their vision and plans of action for the next 6 years. We thank everyone who is tuning in via our digital platforms. The other series of interviews of other senatorial candidates will be posted on the Guidance Facebook page and YouTube channel. Don't forget to use the hashtags Forward2025 and Blueprint2025 when posting about the interviews on your social media pages. I'm Alison Ko, your host for today's interview. Forward 2025 is an issues-based interview series for senatorial candidates running in the 2025 Philippine national midterm elections. 6 candidates included in Ateneo's 12 preferred senators discuss their platforms and answer important questions from the event's foremost demographic, the youth. The interview format consists of 5 rounds. Each round starts with an introduction of the agenda. The Guidon has identified 5 key areas inspired by the United Nations 2030 Sustainable Development Goals: poverty and social inclusion, health and well-being, environmental sustainability, economic growth and infrastructure, and governance and partnerships. After the agenda is introduced, the candidate will be asked to answer moderated, curated questions to elaborate and substantiate their plans of action for each of the specific agendas. This event is co-presented by our media partner, Rappler. Today, we will be talking to educator and trade union activist teacher Franz Castro, who has also served as the party list representative of the Alliance of Concerned Teachers, or ACT, since 2019. So good day, teacher Franz. Thank you so much for being with us today. Welcome to Forward.
Thank you, and good day to our viewers.
Okay, so let's start right away with our first round. The topic of coverage is poverty and social inclusion. How will you incorporate poverty solutions and social inclusion in your campaign platforms?
Well, majority of our people that are in the poverty belongs to yung ating mga magsasaka, yung ating mga manggagawa, fisher folks, and urban poor. So, sila yung ating tinatawag nating mayorya ng taong bayan. And our platform includes them, starting from their salary at saka doon sa kung paano yung mabibigyan sila ng sustainable livelihood.
Okay, and since you're our interviewee, teacher Franz, let's talk about education first. So the Philippines is currently undergoing an education crisis. I'm sure you're very much aware. You used to teach before you retired in 2013. So let's talk about that. The education crisis worsened during the COVID-19 and has not yet recovered so far. Education policies have always been geared towards improving access, meaning more classrooms, more chairs, facilities and equipment, but recent results from the Program for International Assessment, or PISA, show that the quality of education is a consistent shortcoming in our system. How can you strike, teacher Franz, a balance between expanding our access in education while also ensuring that quality is not compromised?
Well, really that yung yung the results of our students, results of the performance of our students, especially in mathematics, science, and even even in creative thinking.
Yes.
Kaya talagang problema. Pero siyempre hindi rin naman kami masyadong hindi kami masyadong ginagamit na sukatan etong mga international studies. Okay, but reality talaga na mababa ang performance at kalidad ng ating edukasyon as a whole. So, how do we go about it? So, when I be elected, so syempre as senator, my number one platform is to make education really number one. So, meaning, in terms of budget, no, at least 6% of our gross domestic product goes to education, from um, early education up to the tertiary. And that also includes yung subsidy for private schools. So, yun. So, at least 6%. So, in terms of concrete um, form, no, concrete number, doble, no? Double the existing budget in education.
And in our conversation with regards to social inequality, of course, we have to talk about the persons with disabilities or PWDs that are one of the most marginalized sector in the Philippines. Specifically, only 353,000 or about 20% of the 1,187,563 Filipino PWDs registered with the National Council on Disability Affairs or NCDA were part of the workforce in January 2022. Now, there are existing government agencies and disability laws that are meant to protect and support PWDs in becoming productive citizens, but the sector continues to struggle in our country. What do you think are the gaps in these laws, and how would you improve the state of Filipino PWDs in terms of accessing stable employment?
Well, very dismal talaga, no, yung conditions of our workers, especially the PWD. In terms of services, we have passed a law. No, this is the Filipino Sign Language Law.
Yeah.
Nang nakalagay dito, no, yung mga suporta benefits ng ating mga, especially yung ating mga persons with hearing impairment.
Right.
Even mga students natin, yung mga children natin. So kaya lang hindi pa ito gaanong napatutupad, no, yung FSL. So makakatulong sana ito, no, for access of services for our persons with disability. Halimbawa na lang, no, yung sa health, dapat pagpunta ng isang persons with disability sa mga health facilities natin, dapat mayroon nag-i-interpret, no, sa ating mga persons with disability, especially yung mga hearing. At saka, syempre yung isa pa rin, ano, sabi sa study, 90% of our children with hearing impairment are not in school. So dapat ma-encourage, no, at matulungan yung ating mga hearing impaired na mga estudyante. In terms naman sa employment ng PWD, so una-una talaga, dapat magkaroon talaga ng statistics, yung inventory ng mga workers na may skills para maipwesto sila, no, doon sa mga work na appropriate sa kanila. So tingin natin kailangan muna ng numbers, no, at i-prioritize talaga doon sa magkaroon talaga ng batas na at least ako ang suggestion ko diyan, magkaroon ng at least 20% ng workforce sa bawat company ay dapat ilaan yan sa persons with disabilities.
All right, so we ended that round on our talking about the PWDs. We now move on to our next round entitled Health and Well-Being, very much related to the PWDs. That being said, how will you advocate for the health and well-being of the Filipinos in your campaign platforms?
One of the platform of Makabayan is for the health services, no? Education and health are two services na hindi dapat napapabayaan ng gobyerno. So number one, we advocate for a 5% budget of the GDP to be allotted to the health services. So ngayon kasi parang 1 to 2% lang, no, ng budget ng health ay napupunta sa mga ano natin, ano, sa mga hospitals. So kailangan natin magkaroon ng mas maraming public hospital na mas maraming health workers at saka yung mga kailangan nating mga equipment sa medical, yung medicine, kailangan natin madagdagan yon. And number two, we have to provide yung health workers, mga nurse, mga doctors, ng tamang pasweldo, no? At hindi dapat nag-hire ng mga contractual sa ating mga health facilities. So, maraming mga nag-abroad, no, sa ating mga health workers to prevent them, no, magbigay talaga ng tamang pasweldo. Our proposal is for nurses, at least 50,000 na monthly salaries, both for public and for private sector, no, ng mga hospitals natin. And then another one is sana ay makumpleto yung mga kinakailangan na ano no, ng mga serbisyo ng ating mga mamamayan sa ating mga hospitals. Well, kung may maayos na budget ay magagawa natin 'yan. At syempre dapat ay ano no, dapat ang ating mga eto mayroon pa nga palang ano no, mayroon pa nga palang singil ang mga health workers natin nung panahon ng pandemya. Dapat maibigay na 'yan dun sa ating ano no, dun sa ating mga health workers. At ano pa ba 'yon? Isa rin sa ano namin ay mapaunlad din yung mga rural na mga traditional na mga medicines na kung wala halimbawa yung mga hospitals, dapat merong alternatibo, no, yung ating mga mamamayan sa mga rural areas. Kaya dapat pa rin na talagang bigyan natin ng, alam ba, yung mga community health workers, yung mga volunteer na mga community health workers, marami kasi sa kanila nagbo-volunteer, namimilitarize naman o pinaharas sa mga kanayunan. Kaya dapat bigyan sila ng protection. Kaya yun, budget at saka yung benepisyo, sweldo ng ating mga health workers.
On the other hand, an act that has been passed in 2017 is the Philippine Mental Health Act. However, studies show that mental health issues among children and suicide rates are still alarmingly high. What concrete legislative steps will you implement to strengthen mental health services and support systems for children? And how will you ensure that budget allocations are adequate and effectively utilized?
Yeah. Many of our students were found to be have mental problems. Sa mga schools, marami yan, no, na hindi lang na-address ng ating mga personnel. So ang proposal namin diyan is to have a talagang guidance counselor sa mga eskwelahan. So hindi kasi pwede yung guidance teacher lang. So they lack skills, no, in terms of yung mga psychology ng mga bata. So, kailangan mag-provide, kasi may bill kami sa ACT Teachers Party List na magkaroon talaga ng mga guidance counselors sa ating mga eskwelahan that would guide yung mga bata natin sa mga eskwelahan. So, yun yung concrete namin na panukalang batas, no? And number 2, kasi yung mga guidance counselors kasi, maraming hindi nag-a-apply. They tend to go to abroad or other countries. So dapat i-provide din sila ng tamang pasweldo sa mga guidance counselors. And number 3, dapat yung DOH na mag-provide din ng free access to mga psychologists, yung mga doctors na pwedeng yung mga doctors na pwedeng ma-consult no, ng mga parents or ng mga estudyante, i-provide yun ng ating mga hospitals din. At syempre, pag yun, yung last ko, no, yung dapat na, hindi dapat na i-discriminate, na ma-discriminate yung mga bata, yung mga tao na merong dinaranas na mental health problems. They should be supported by their family, no? Tapos hindi sila dapat na kinukutya or binubuli ng kanilang mga peers. So makakatulong diyan yung support ng pamilya at ng community.
Yes. And on that note, that ends round 2. So thank you for answering our questions on health and well-being. We now move on to our third round that talks about environmental sustainability. How will you push for such in your campaign platforms?
Well, parang less na napag-uusapan yung environmental concern. So, part ng ating plataforma sa Makabayan ay itong talagang pagbo-boost ng ating environment concern. Lalong-lalo na, we are disaster-prone no, na country, more than 20 yung mga typhoons, tapos meron tayong mga earthquake, mga prone din tayo sa earthquake. So, ano ba yung panukala natin tungkol dyan? So, isa na naman to no? Kasi hindi naman tayo makakapagbigay ng programa kung wala talagang budget. Although tumaas naman ng konti yung budget sa ating sa ating mga pang-disaster, resilient, etc. Pero ang problema kasi dito is policy, no? Ang gusto natin talaga dito ay yung iwasan, prevent yung pagkasira ng ating environment. Like for example, in mining. So in mining, konti lang yung kinikita ng gobyerno diyan, pero the danger and the disaster is very big, no, the community. So para sa amin i-repeal itong Mining Act of 1995 at i-approve yung People's Mining Bill kasi meron ang makabayan niyan yung People's Mining Bill na ang pagmimina ay dapat na maging based dun sa pangangailangan ng ating mga community. Number 2, dapat ipatupad na rin siguro yung batas natin for yung tungkol sa RA 9005 ba yan, yung tungkol doon sa pag-aayos talaga ng mga basura at saka ng mga At number 3, tanggalin yung reclamation. No, itigil yung mga reclamation na nagdudulot talaga ng pagkasira ng kabuhayan ng ating mga fisher folks, and at the same time nagdudulot din ito nung problema natin sa environment disaster. Sabi nila yung mga reclamation area na yan ay nagsira ng mga mangrove na yun talaga sana yung pang pigil sa talaga natin ng mga pagbaha at saka other disaster.
Yes, bukod sa mga nabanggit mo, Teacher Franz, sa pagbibigay ng pamahay, isang nakikitang solusyon sa climate change ang renewable energy. But despite the immense potential for renewable energy in the Philippines, the technology's upfront costs and a lack of public awareness of its benefits remain major hurdles to its widespread use. An Ateneo de Manila University study found that the trustworthiness of providers and the perceived quality of the installations themselves were just as important considerations as cost, if not more so. So what policies might you have to ensure that the confidence on just transition to renewable energy is adopted by more Filipinos?
So I agree with the use of renewable energy transition from using fossil fuel or coal in generating power. Dapat i-develop natin yung ating mga solar energy, hydroelectric energy, tsaka yung geothermal, wind, yung mga energy from wind, pwede natin i-develop. Kaya lang parang hindi seryoso yung ating gobyerno para we transform to renewable energy. So yung isa sa concrete na proposal natin ay talagang meron na kasi tayong meron na kasi tayong batas on renewable energy. Ang kailangan na lang talaga ng ating gobyerno is to implement that. That implement yun na talagang magiging kapakipakinabang at abot kaya ng ating mga mamamayan. Kasi ngayon, halimbawa, we have solar energy at hand, pero napakamahal naman. Hindi siya affordable ng ating mga kababayan. Kaya talaga dapat na pagtuunan ng enough na mga budget and resources yung transition natin from coal, fossil fuel to renewable energy. At malaki ang maitulong diyan ng ating mga ng ating mga local government units, sa tulong din ng ating mga community, ma-develop itong mga renewable energy na ito at magamit ito paunti-unti, at para hindi, katulad niyan, sa isang community, marami pa rin talaga na maraming kuryente. So, kung makakarating doon yung ating government, mapoprovide yung community natin ng solar energy, kung meron doon ay mabibigyan sila ng power. Kaya talagang it's about time that we we transform our energy to renewable energy.
Yeah. Now we move on to our fourth round, where the topic of coverage is economic growth and infrastructure. Now, Teacher Franz, where does economic development stand in your campaign promises?
Of course, that is a priority, one of our priorities in our platform. So, when it comes to economic, kasi mahalaga yan, na ang daming mga aspects that we have to improve doon sa ekonomiya natin. So, unang-una nga, yung ating talagang banner na platform dyan is to magkaroon talaga ng ng national industrialization, improve our national industrialization na naka-base doon sa agriculture. Kasi yun naman ang Pilipinas, no? We have vast land, of agriculture, kaya dapat yun yung hand in hand na pinauunlad ng ating gobyerno, and at the same time yung ating human resource. Medyo nasabi ko na ng konti kanina, no, yung pagpapaunlad ng ating mga rural development, na naka-base din sa naka-base sa modern agriculture. So gusto natin talaga na mapaunlad yung kalagayan ng ating mga magsasaka doon sa mga rural areas, so that hindi na tayo nagre-resort doon sa mga importation ng ating mga kailangan ng mga agricultural products. And at the same time, yung mga national industry natin dapat na paunlarin, no? Kasi ngayon we are depending on social services lang yung mga trabahong may tungkol sa serbisyo at saka tungkol dun sa remittance ng mga OFW, nakadepend talaga. Dapat mapaunlad natin talaga yung ating sariling industriya sa iba't ibang mga probinsya. Katulad, like for example, pwede natin paunlarin yung ating mga shipping industry, di ba? So, paunlarin natin yung pagpo-produce noong mga agricultural products na na-process na. Hindi yung nakaasa tayo na lumarating mula sa ibang bansa. So, yun yung natin. At saka, isa pang aspect ng economy natin ay yung human resource. Dapat ay tama yung pasahod at saka yung security of tenure ng ating mga workers, and respecting the rights of our workers. So, yun yung economy natin. No? Taasan ng sweldo kasi habang marami yung ginagastos sa ating ekonomiya, ay umuunlad yung ating, sinasabi natin yung ating ekonomiya. So yun, yung gusto natin, yung national industrialization, modernization ng ating technology and agriculture, and respect our human resource. Yeah.
Another major consequence of workers migrating to Metro Manila is that the nation's capital, along with other major urban centers in the Philippines, suffer from chronic traffic congestion and long commute times. Such conditions are often cited in these areas as economic losses and reduced productivity. Now, what specific policies would you promote to modernize and expand mass transit systems such as the MRT, LRT, PNR, and bus rapid transit networks? Additionally, how do you plan to ensure that provincial cities and rural areas also benefit from improved transportation infrastructure and not just Metro Manila?
In terms of traffic, more and more private cars na kasi ngayon, kasi hindi talaga hindi nakakasapat yung mga public transportation natin. Kaya nandun pa rin kami doon sa pag-improve ng ating public transport, na dapat ay hindi ito ma-privatize. Kasi basic services sa ating mga mamamayan, dapat ibalik yung yung hawak ng gobyerno itong transport system natin. At tama nga yan, paunlarin talaga yung mga railways, improve yung mga, ito yung MRT kasi naging privatized na itong mga to. So dapat maibalik yan. At tapos pababain yung pamasahe dyan, no? And at the same time, habang pinapaunlad mo ito, pinapaunlad mo rin yung mga public transport system din sa mga rural areas. And at the same time, yung mga infrastructure para yung mga tao ay mabilis yung mga, lalong-lalo yung mga workers, mas mabilis siyang magmo-mobilize. No? Kailangan talaga ng talagang overhauling ng mga policy ng ating gobyerno doon sa in terms of public transportation, and at the same time yung policy nito doon sa mga public cars, no? So paano ba to, no? Paano ba to masusolusyonan diyan? So kailangan talaga ng panukalang batas na magkaroon talaga ng consolidated, no, ng mga plans and programs for our public transportation.
And we are now on our last and final round on good governance and partnerships. Now, how is good governance and citizens collaboration included in your campaign platforms?
Of course, pag define natin yung good governance, kailangan nandyan yung democracy, nandyan yung accountability and transparency in the government, and nandyan yung participation ng ating mga mamamayan o yung ating mga taong bayan. So, first, I have started, no, yung paano ba dapat gamitin yung pondo and budget sa ating gobyerno by exposing the misuse and seemingly corruption doon sa confidential funds. Pinapakita natin dito na dapat yung bawat opisyal, elected man yan or appointed, should be mindful kung paano dapat gamitin yung pondo ng mga mamamayan. Especially that galing yan sa tax ng mamamayan, inuutang din natin yan. Kaya kailangan talaga, no, in a good governance, pumili talaga ng mga tao mapapagkatiwalaan at walang bahid ng korupsyon. No, so that's it, no. Mahalaga talaga yung budget kasi yan yung ikot ng mga programa and project and activities of the government for the people. Kaya dapat maayos yung accountability, maayos yung paggamit niyan. Pangalawa, yung participation, democratic participation ng tao. So mahalaga, kahit nga sinasabi na yung election is manifestation na merong semblance of democracy in our society, pero sino ba yung mga tumatakbo? Mga political dynasty, mga trapo. Yung election natin, nagiging lang siya, popularity contest. So, dapat magkaroon ng batas talaga na equal opportunity, no, dun sa ating mga kandidato. Pangatlo, yung participation ng ating mga mamamayan. So, napakahalaga nito. No? Kaya nga, sabi namin, sa pagbabudget, it should be transparent. From budget briefing up to the bicameral hanggang doon sa ratification. Hanggang sa makarating na yan kay Pangulo for signature. So dapat maging transparent ang paggogobyerno. Ilan sa mga concrete na panukalang batas namin is ayan nga, abolish confidential funds. Lahat ng mga government officials dapat ay be transparent doon sa kanilang statement of assets, liabilities, worth and net worth. Tapos syempre yung freedom of information. So mahalaga yung participation ng mamamayan. Kung alam niya yung mga nangyayari sa gobyerno through this freedom of information, ay pwede siyang magbigay ng mga suggestion or criticize kung paano ba kailangan talaga yung freedom of information maipasa.
Okay, which brings me to my next question. As the party list representative of ACT, I'm sure you're very much aware on how the previous Duterte administration has been hostile towards political dissent. And the current Marcos administration has seen expansions of Duterte-era agencies such as the National Task Force to End Local Communism and Armed Conflict, or NTF-LCAC, Such agencies have increasingly subjected individuals and organizations to harassment and political persecution. If elected, how would you ensure the protection of the political freedoms as well as peaceful protests and assembly?
Okay, even if we have this in the constitution, yung ating mga bills of rights or
Yes.
bill of rights. Pero oftentimes, nababiolate ito, especially yung mga freedom of expression, freedom of assembly, tsaka freedom of the press, no? So dapat ay talagang palakasin talaga yung pag-i-implement niyan. Another one is yung NTF-ELCAC. It should be abolished. Notorious talaga itong NTF-ELCAC na ito sa violation ng human rights with no improvement to the lives of our community. Meron nga mga sinasabing barangay development fund, pero saan ba ito napupunta? Napupunta lang ito sa red tagging, pagpa-file ng mga trump-up cases against yung ating mga progressive organization and activists. Kaya dapat talaga ma-abolish yung NTF-ELCAC na yan. Yung pondo dyan na more or less 10 billion, dalhin na lang yan talaga sa education and Department of Health or sa health services natin. So yun, ang proposal talaga natin dyan ay tanggalin yung NTF-ELCAC.
All right. And with that, thank you so much, Teacher Franz Castro, for entertaining all our questions. This has been a very insightful conversation. That concludes our interview with Teacher Franz Castro. We thank you once again for sitting down with us as we discuss the pressing issues concerning the youth and the whole of the nation. I'm Alison Ko, Broadcast News, The Guidon. This has been Forward 2025, the Guidon's flagship coverage of the 2025 senatorial elections. Once again, I'm Alison Ko from The Guidon, and on behalf of the Forward team, we thank you for tuning in. With one vote, you can carry your cause forward, so make it count.